Robert Musil, German, Musil, or Musil, November 6, 1880, April 15, 1942, was an Austrian writer. His unfinished novel The Man Without Qualities, German, Der Mann ohne Eigenschaften, is generally considered to be one of the most important and influential modernist novels. Family: Musil was born in Klagenfurt, Kärnten, the son of engineer Alfred Edler von Musil, 1846, Timisoara, 1924, and his wife Hermann-Birger, 1853, Linz, 1924. The Orientalist Alois Musil, the Czech Lawrence, was his second cousin. Soon after Robert's birth, the family moved to Chomutov in Bohemia, and in 1891 Musil's father was appointed to the chair of mechanical engineering at the German Technical University in Brno, and awarded a hereditary nobility in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He was baptized Robert Matthias Musil, and his name was officially Robert Matthias Edler von Musil from October 22, 1917, when his father received a hereditary title of nobility Edler, until April 3, 1919, when the use of noble titles was forbidden in Austria. Musil was short in stature, but strong and skilled at wrestling, and by his early teens already more than his parents could handle. They sent him to military boarding school at Eisenstadt, 1892 to 1894, and then Hennes, 1894 to 1897. These school experiences are reflected in his first novel, Die Verwirrungen des Augelings, The Confusions of Young Torless. After graduating as a cadet, Musil studied briefly at a military academy in Vienna during the fall of 1897, but then switched to mechanical engineering, joining his father's department at Technical University in Brno. During his university studies he studied engineering by day, but at night read literature and philosophy, and went to the theater and art exhibits. Nietzsche, Dostoevsky, Ralph Waldo Emerson and Ernst Mach were particular interests of his university years. Musil finished his studies in 3 years, then in 1902 to 1903 served as an unpaid assistant to Professor Julius Karl von Bock, in Stuttgart. During this time he began work on young Turles and invented the device Musilser Farbkreisel, the Musil color top, a simple tool for continuous production of mixed colors by additive color mixing with 2 differently colored rotating discs. Musil grew tired of engineering and what he perceived as the limited worldview of engineers. He launched a new round of doctoral studies, 1903 to 1908, in psychology and philosophy at the University of Berlin under the renowned Professor Karl Stumpf. In 1905, Musil met his future wife, Martha Markouveli, née Heinemann, January 21, 1874, November 6, 1949. She had already been widowed and remarried, with 2 children, and was 7 years older than Musil. His first novel, Young Torless, was published in 1906. In 1909 Musil completed his doctorate and Professor Alexius Mayanon offered him a position at the University of Graz, which he turned down to concentrate on writing of novels. Over the next 2 years, he wrote and published 2 stories, The Temptation of Quiet Veronica and The Perfecting of a Love, collected in Vereinigung, Unions, published in 1911. During this same year, Martha's divorce was completed and Musil married her. As she was Jewish, they both converted to Protestantism as a sign of their union. Until this time, Musil had been supported by his family, but he now found employment first as a librarian in the Technical University of Vienna, and then in an editorial role with the Berlin Literary Journal. He also worked on a play entitled Die Schwärmer, The Enthusiasts, which was published in 1921. When World War I began, Musil joined the army and was stationed first in Tyrol and then at Austria's Supreme Army Command in Bolzano. In 1916 Musil visited Prague and met Franz Kafka, whose work he held in high esteem. After the war's end, and the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Musil returned to his literary career in Vienna. He published a collection of short stories, Drei Frauen, Three Women, in 1924. He also admired the Bohemian poet Rainer Maria Rilke, at whose memorial service in 1926 in Berlin, Musil called undervalued for most of his life. He said that by the time of his death, Rilke had turned into a delicate, well-matured liqueur suitable for grown-up ladies, but that his work is too demanding to be considered relaxing. In 1930 and 1933 in Berlin, 1,074 page he published Volume 1, Part 1, A Sort of Introduction, and Part 2, The Like of It Now Happens, and 605 page unfinished Volume 2, Part 3, Into the Millennium, The Criminals, of his masterpiece, The Man Without Qualities, Der Mann ohne Eigenschaften. Part 3 did not include 20 chapters withdrawn from Volume 2 of 1933 while in printer's galley proofs. The novel deals with the moral and intellectual decline of the Austro-Hungarian Empire through the eyes of the book's protagonist Ulrich, an ex-mathematician who has failed to engage with the world around him in a manner that would allow him to possess qualities. It is set in Vienna on the eve of World War I. The Man Without Qualities brought Musil only mediocre commercial success. Though he was nominated for the Nobel Prize in Literature, he felt he did not receive the recognition he deserved. He sometimes expressed annoyance at the success of more famous colleagues like Thomas Mann or Hermann Brock, who admired his work deeply, and tried to shield him from economic difficulties and encouraged his writing, even though Musil was initially critical of Mann. In the early 1920s, Musil lived mostly in Berlin. In Vienna Musil was a frequent visitor to Eugenie Schwarzwald's salon, the model for Diadema in The Man Without Qualities. In 1932, the Robert Musil Society was founded in Berlin on the initiative of Thomas Mann. In the same year Thomas Mann was asked to name outstanding contemporary novels, and he cited only one, The Man Without Qualities. In 1936, Musil suffered his first stroke. The last years of Musil's life were dominated by Nazism and World War II. The Nazis banned his books. He saw early Nazism firsthand while living in Berlin from 1931 to 1933. In 1938, when Austria became a part of the Third Reich, Musil and his Jewish wife Martha left for exile in Switzerland, where he died on April 15, 1942 at the age of 61. Martha wrote to Franz Theodor Zucker that he had suffered a stroke. Only 8 people attended his cremation. Martha cast his ashes into the woods of Montana's Elve. From 1933 until his death, Musil was working on Part 3 of The Man Without Qualities. In 1943 in Lausanne, Martha published a 462-page collection of material from his literary remains including the 20 galley chapters withdrawn from Part 3 before Volume 2 appeared in 1933, as well as drafts of the final incomplete chapters and notes on the development and direction of the novel. She died in Rome in 1949.